Great. Hello, teachers. My name is Sid Wajirkar, and this is the webinar on Whiteboard.chat's advanced features. Thank you so much for joining. We're all excited to have you here, and really happy that you've taken the leap into starting to use advanced features of the Whiteboard.chat. For some of the teachers who may have joined this thinking this is just a generic webinar, well, we have two types of webinars. One is focuses on the basic features of Whiteboard.chat, and the other one is the second one, which is the advanced features. So certainly, if you're interested, there are a bunch of recordings for the basic features webinar that we will point you to as well, which you can always look at later on. But the advanced features will still give you an idea of how to use Whiteboard.chat. So certainly, hopefully, this session will still be useful to you. Okay, and as you may already be familiar, we are extremely active on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Please do engage with us, give us feedback. I think most of the features that you will see today are largely teacher designed, and we've improved them over time purely based on the feedback that we receive from teachers like you. So Dhawal has pasted the links for all the social media presences of ours, and so please feel free to engage with us. So with that said, I don't want to spend too much time on any of the basic things. You probably have already seen the basic webinar. So let's jump into Whiteboard.chat directly. So I am going to open my browser here, and you're already familiar with the Whiteboard.chat website. In case you're outside the US, we now already also have now a Europe presence. So if you go to www.eu.whiteboard.chat, you can access a server which is closer to you and probably will work better for you. If you're in Asia, you can go to www.asia.whiteboard.chat and use it. Okay, so let's directly go into start drawing and start teaching. So I'm pretty sure you are all familiar with how Whiteboard.chat works. The teacher prepares a board with content on it. It can have multiple pages that you can control through this page controller here. And then you can invite students. So let's say just to get started, right? Let's say upload a board and create a board with, let's say, uploading files from a computer, right? And let's say that I'm going to just upload a simple little assignment for my students. And I am going to invite the students using this invite link, right? So this is all you're very familiar with. I will just quickly demo that just so that you get the context together. So this is, I've opened a second browser window, which is just what the student would see. So let's say my student's name is Sarah, right? And so the student gets an exact copy of what the teacher added there, and the student can continue working on the assignment. And the teacher has access to a grid view, where the teacher can see all the students in the classroom, and the students are not able to see any other students' work, while the teacher can see all the other students, right? All of the students in the classroom. So this is the most important feature of Whiteboard.chat, that you get to see, you get the observability of all the students and what they're working on. Right. So let's now jump into a few of the.
You say, hi, it's Lainey. I'm just wondering if I can speak to.
Okay. So let's look at a few of the tools that we typically don't cover during our basic webinar, right? So one of the most important thing is uploading files. So what I just did just a little while ago was upload a file, which is just a PDF document from my computer. You can do the same from a Google Drive as well. There are a few other gaming options, which we'll look at in a little bit. But a few other options which are more commonly used are if you directly have a link to a PDF, right? Let's say that, let me see if I can find a link to a PDF itself here. So I think I had this link here. So if you don't want to download a particular link, but you have a direct link to a PDF, you can just click, let me switch over to a different page. Go click this link to the PDF, add this, and it will upload the PDF directly to Whiteboard.chat also. Now, depending upon the server where the PDF is coming from, it might be a little bit slower, like you saw, right? Now, a few other options here is that you can upload from a live worksheet, which is, so there's another website which is very commonly used by teachers called Live Worksheets. So all that you need to do is click on a worksheet that you're interested in, click on this copy link, and then use a live worksheet option here. And that's another way to upload your PDFs. A few other common ways to do it is by uploading, by using your phone scanner. So let me quickly demonstrate that for you. This seems like a multi-page PDF, looks like. All right, there we go. So let me go to the upload section again and click on phone scanner. Now this is a really, really nifty way to upload some content real time. So I'm going to try and see if I can share my phone screen also on the camera. So as you see now here, this is a QR code. Most of the mobile phones now, if you open up a camera, your camera mode. So this is just a simple camera that you can see here right now. So I'm going to point my screen here, and then it shows me the option of, hopefully you can, it's a little too bright maybe, but it asks me various options, and I can say open in the browser. Now, when I open my browser, it opens up a screen, something similar to this. If it's a little hard to read it has two buttons on it. It says upload picture, or you can also directly draw on your phone, and that will show up on the whiteboard. But let's say I just want to upload a picture right now. Okay, so I click on the upload picture button on my phone and then open up my camera. Okay, now let's say I just take a picture of my keyboard right here. Okay, so this is the kind of screen that I see now. I see the picture that I just took. I can also figure out which page I want to upload this. So automatically this is on page number 6. So it shows me the option of page number 6. I think somebody else clicked on this maybe. And so I can click upload out here, and from my phone directly, the phone gets, the picture gets included onto the whiteboard. So now this is really, really useful for both teachers and students, because if for example, I take, I have some written assignment that I worked on in my notebook, I can simply just say, okay, take a picture of whatever my written assignment was, and then upload it, right? So for example, if I just do it again here, I take a picture of my assignment here, upload it, that works as well. Probably almost have overwritten. Let me see if I went to page number 6, 7, and there you go. So it's gone to this page 7, right? So so that's one way for you to also upload. Another way to do it is if you'd like to upload photos and videos. Now you can add a webcam photo, for example. So let's say that the students don't have a phone handy, but they can also open up the webcam of their laptop, point their picture, their book, their notebook to that, take a photo and upload and save that to include that. And then the teacher can then, of course, annotate right on top of this, right? And the same goes for the adding actual audio and video also. So you go back to the upload photos, audio, video section, and you can enable your webcam to record like a video or just plain audio if you'd like, and then save that. And that would get added as a button as well. So let's say if I start recording out here and make a quick small recording and say stop recording, I can give it a name, say save video and save. So this adds a small button right up out here on your board. You can move it around if you'd like. And when the students come here and click on that, for example, if the student is looking at page number 8, there it is. The student can play that and see the video, right? So I'll take a second to see if there's any questions. Anything, Dal?
Not yet.
Okay, excellent. All right, so these are all pretty much, I think, extensively gone through all the upload options. Let's quickly now look at another feature which gets commonly asked by users is how do I create groups? And have students engage in a entire, just to collaborate in different groups, and how do I manage through different, the various groups that I've created. So let me go back to my homepage, Whiteboard.chat, click on start drawing and start teaching. Okay, and the reason I started a new board is because there's one mode in which you can create groups before the students join. Okay, so right now, as you can see, this is a fresh board. It's just me out here, and now it's just the instructor. So now let me just quickly repeat how I got to that particular dialog. So up here on the participants panel, if I click on that, there's a create group board option. So if I click that, now there are three ways where you can create groups. So one is a pre-created group. So you can click on this, and let's say I create 3 groups, red, green, and blue. Okay. And now let's see what happens on the student side when they join a board that has these pre-created groups. So I'm going to click on the invite button and select the link. I'm going to invite my colleague Dhaval, who's on the call as well. And I will also make Sarah join this board. So let's see, Sarah joins here. Now see, Sarah is right here, and the Sarah gets to pick the group that she should like to be in. Maybe she'd like to go to the red group, and she clicks on join. So as soon as Sarah joins, she is added to a group board. Now on top here, you can clearly see that this is a student board and it is group red, right? So let's say Sarah types in maybe she'd like to improve the font size a little bigger, maybe choose a slightly brighter color. Maybe she's in red group, so she likes red. Right. And now if I look at this participants panel again, let's see what has happened out here. Right. So we have 2 participants. One is Sarah, one is Dhaval. And if as a teacher now, if I'd like to see who has joined the green group, I can click on this. And I can see that Dhaval is on this green board. I can go back to the instructor board. Go back to the participants panel. I can see who's in the red group by clicking on this eye icon. Oh, looks like Sarah is here. Right. And now, interestingly, you can also go to I'm back onto the instructor board here. If the teacher goes to the grid view, the teacher gets to also see the group boards in the grid view, right? So that's one thing you can keep in mind, that you can also add, they have the same sort of mechanisms of giving feedback, interacting with a group board by clicking on this and joining the board, groups directly that way, right? So this is one option, is that you pre-create groups. Another option that you have, let me go back to my book. Let's go out and start from scratch, so it's a little easier to follow. Okay, so let's say I would like to create 2 groups right here. All right, so here's now the second option is auto created groups. So which is, I'd like to create a group of say 3 students, right? And as many ever groups needed, but it's only limited to 3 per group, right? So I can specify the number of students. So as you can see, the help text here says number of students in a group. So I just click on 3 and auto create groups. Okay. Again, this is it's better to do it before the students start joining in. Otherwise, you might see some students might be in a different group and maybe the counts don't match or something, right? So it definitely works even if you create it later, but just, purely for you to follow it and easier for you to manage, easier to create it before students joining. I'm going to click this link again and paste it right here. And I'm going to have, maybe this time around, I'll try and create a few more mock students, right? So this is Sarah who has joined. And I can see that Sarah said, maybe Dhaval can join on the new link as well. Okay. I'm going to have this particular board reset it so that I can try and mimic as if a different student is joining. So let's say I call this, this is a new student. Right, so now I've got these students joined in. Let's try and add another one. By resetting, I'm just trying to get rid of my student, the registered student on that particular incognito window. So let's say, all right, so let's see the groups that I have now. Pick up the groups. I selected the right option there. Let's see the grid view. I just see my students here. Maybe it didn't pick up my option that I wanted to create auto groups. Let me see if I didn't hit. Okay, let me try 3 again and auto create groups. There you go. Okay, so I've got 2 groups that were auto created, right? One is auto group 1, is the auto group 2. And if I can join those groups as a teacher by clicking on that eye icon. I shouldn't do that. Right, this is auto group 1. I think this is what the hell is added. And as you can see on my student board here, I think this was Joe's board. Joe has been automatically added to auto group 2 as well. So this is another convenient way for you to quickly drop in students as they arrive into different groups. Okay. Any questions so far?
Yes, there is a question about how you can enable chat within a group window so that, so if you can demonstrate chat for a group board.
Okay, so I have joined the auto group 1. I'm a teacher, but I've joined auto group 1. So I go up here to the 3-dot menu. Sorry, actually I need to go to the participants panel and I say create chat as a teacher. So this starts the chat, and look at what it says down here. Recipients is only people who are on this board. So if I had started this on the main teacher board, it would be all the students. But since I'm already part of the group, it's going to be specifically these group 1 students only. So if I say hello group 1, only the group 1 students get to see this message. And even when the Dhawal responds, only the group 1 students get that response, right? So it's students who are only chatting within that particular group. That answers the question. Okay. And your teacher can create the chat. Yes, that's right. Only the teacher can create the chat and not the students. That's always within the teacher's control only. Okay, awesome. And so let's look at the third way in which you can create the groups as well. So this is a little bit more hands-on in the sense that you get a fine-grained control as on who goes to which group, right? So
sorry,
yes.
Sid, there is a follow-up question on the chat. How can you monitor the chat while students are working? Do you see that in the grid view?
So you can go into the grid view and you can look at the various group boards, right? So for example, if I just see the group board, I can join that. And as soon as I join that, the chat panel shows me exactly what's been going on in this group. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. And so, yeah, let's quickly look at the third option. I'll go back to my instructor board. Click on participants here. Now, this one's a little bit easier to understand, so I'm not going to literally create students for that, but here's what you do. So this was the third option. Let me show you again where it was. So this was, we already looked at pre-created, auto-created, and selected groups. So what selected groups does is it lets you create group again by any name. Let's say, so let's call it group 1, right? And then you can select specifically. Now these are already assigned to different boards, right? So let's say that I just want to assign myself to this particular teacher group, for example, right? So I just create this group. So what this has done is this is just moved me as a teacher into this group, but you can also pick any other students and create and then have them join that. So this is a manually created group. And if I join this group right now, I just see that I'm the only one who's on that group. But if I had added other students, then of course they would always be on that group. And if you create them manually, then one advantage that you have is that you know exactly, you can pick and choose and which students work with which other students. And then of course, the number of students that are there in every group can be different, right? Based upon your choice as to how you do the assignment. Okay. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, great. Let's see, go back to my instructor board. Let me see what else. So we looked at uploads, the various group boards. Okay, let's look into our toolbox here. Okay, so there's a really variety of things that you can do out here as well. Let's look at the breakdown tool to start with. Okay, so the breakdown tool really works in association with the various gizmos that we have here, right? So gizmos, now these are, if you just look at these, they are literally just plain pictures of objects and things like that, right? So you can literally call them as stickers and use them as such. But there's a little bit more to them when you use them in association with the breakdown tool. So if you go to the breakdown tool and I click on some currency like this, it actually breaks down that currency into various denominations, right? So yeah, and you can continue breaking them down further too. You can also apply that to not only just currency, but also to some other math manipulatives. So here's another example. So if I pick 100 block here and I use a breakdown tool again, this actually breaks down the hundreds into 10 tens, and you can further break it down also, right? So that's a really good way to explain some of these concepts to students. There's a tool called a drop zone. So here's what you can do with the drop zone. Now the drop zone is sort of a pseudo tool where you can create an area on the whiteboard that serves different purposes, right? Let's take a look at one such use case. So one is that you can make the drop zone count things for you. So for example, this is now in currency counting mode, right? So if I go back to our currency here, and if I drop in some money here, it actually starts to count things, right? And it can also be used for various other things too. For example, if I go and I pick some math manipulatives, let's say I pick positive X, it can also do things like this. It can actually create like a little bit of a equation as well if you are, and polynomials and things like that if you'd like, right? So if I put this to, it'll actually make it like this, right? So you can do some really interesting things with it. And now you can further gamify this. Now let's say I want to erase this. Well, there's one question that actually just came up in our support mailing list this morning, is that if I go into the erase mode, this sometimes the drop zone is not erased, and that happens because the I will select this and show you what happens here. So it may be a locked. See, so this particular image is locked by default. So if I just go into the erase mode, I may not be able to erase this. And so the right way to do this is go back into the select mode, unlock it, and then you can erase it, right? So in case you run into that, now you know one way to get around that. All right, so let's look at a few other uses of the drop zone. So I'm going to drop zone here, and let's say that I add a few objects here. Let's say I add a 10 block, I add a 1 block, And let's say that I would like to make copies of it. So I'm going to select this and clone it. I should have probably made it a little bit bigger. Let me do that. And raise it because I'd like to make this particular drop zone large enough to hold these objects. So let me go back here. Okay, there you go. So I'm going to select this and move it. Okay, and let's say I take these as well. Add one block. Okay, so now I've basically made a drop zone that contains 13 blocks, right? It's 10 plus 3. So, and I can make, I can select this option of making it add answers and points. So what this does is it makes it a little bit small, like a game or an assignment for students where I can give them 10 points for being able to make 13 out of this, right? So I can say save. And now this automatically makes those objects disappear. I can then make these objects as clonable by students. So I can say enable student clone both these objects. So now from the student side, if I join this again as the student board, let's see, page number 2. All right, so let's see what I've got here. So on from the student's point of view, now what the student can do is the student can move these objects. And try to make 13 out of these, right? I should have maybe added some text out here that gives instructions to students saying, okay, make a value of 13 from the given blocks. Now, what the teacher can do is that the teacher can go to the grid view and take a look at what the students have done, right? So look at, if I go into this group board here, this is what one student's answer. Now, of course, it's quite cumbersome and painful for the teacher to go through every board and see if the students have done the assignment correctly, right? So what the teacher can do as an alternative is to use this feature called autocorrection. So which is what we did here, is that when we created a drop zone, we added blocks worth about essentially 13 blocks. And now what I can do is this teacher, sorry, I should have gone into the 3 dots menu out here in the actions menu, and I can say autocorrect all boards. So what that does on the student side is it evaluates what the students have done on their drop zone. So here you can see that this answer was incorrect. And so the teacher did the correction, applied correction one time, but the student did not get any points because the score was incorrect. But let's say the student figures out the problem, right, and does the assignment correctly. Now this teacher autocorrects all the boards again. As you can see, let's see, did I not get right? Oh, I think there's some overlap here. So let me make sure that this is correct. Most likely this is because of the other drop zone that I added before. Okay. Let's try that again. There we go. So now the student has received all the points because, of course, this answer is correct. So you can use this drop zone as a very nice way to create like a gamified board where students can learn the concepts by picking up objects. You can do the same with currencies and things like that as well. Right. So this kind of demonstrates to you how you can use the drop zone and also use autocorrection. Right. So now,
Sid, sorry,
yes.
Since you are already on the group board, there was a follow-up question about the group board, that how that activity that is happening on the group board can get recorded, meaning how the group boards probably get saved. So if you can show them that just like a student board are accessible, the group boards are also accessible after.
Yes, that's right. So there's a couple of things to talk about there actually in that regard. So one is, of course, you go to the grid view, and even let's say that if from a student, now the student is on the group board, but the student can also switch out and go back to their own board. So for example, the student goes back to their own board, they can continue working on any other page of the assignment or of the board, right? So even though the student has left the group board, the teacher still has access to the same group board. So for example, the teacher can still go and join here and look at what that particular group had done, right? So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to use a time machine. So this one shows actually it works better on the individual boards. Let's say I go back to the instructor board. Let me see. Have you made any changes, Dhaval? Maybe I can go to your board.
Hold on. I guess you were switching between different boards. So
Yeah.
on my board, I'm on page number 1. Page
Okay.
number
So
2.
let me just show it on the teacher's board itself. That will be probably equivalent in some sense. So I can go to the teacher's board, go to my book. Okay. And so this tool called the time machine can be used to look at a board. Not showing anything here. It's odd. Have you joined the board though? So let me see.
I have. I'm on the group auto group 1, and I just added I did the auto correction as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So can you
Let
join
me
the
see if I
auto
can.
group, and if you can just place time machine there, let's
Yeah,
see.
I think that should probably. There you go. So as you can see, you can move this time machine back and forward to see how the particular group board had progressed, and also within a group board you can right click on any of these objects and you can see who had updated the board. So this particular object. So in this case, Dhaval had worked on this board on this particular object. So you know who's worked added. So if you have a bunch of students who have added a few different objects, written some content, you can still, as a teacher, go and find out who had added that content. So if there's any inappropriate content, it doesn't go untracked, right? You can still see who added it and so on, right? Sure. Any other questions, sir?
No, Sid. Please continue.
Awesome. So we looked at the drop zones. Let's move on to a few of the other tools out here. Let's hold on. All right, let's take a look at the grading report now. And so now the grading report really works in association with the whole auto correction feature, right? So now, as you can see out here, it gives you an idea of the page number. So you can have auto correction features on different pages, right? So it tells you each row corresponds to different page numbers that you may have the auto correction done on. And it tells you which ones were auto graded, which ones were manual graded. Actually corresponds to whether or not the teacher has issued it or the student has done the grading. And it also tells you it gives you the option to also download the whole report itself, right? So you have you have ways in which you can see who has completed their assignments and so on as well from here. And there are few filtering options here where you can mark certain boards with certain tags. So maybe quickly show you that part. So let's say if I go to the grid view and let's say I pick Sarah's board, and this is okay, there are a few options to add tags. So let's say I mark Sarah's board with pink. Let's say I use pink to maybe assign certain labels to certain students. Maybe you've auto graded them. Maybe you've reviewed them for some material and so on, right? So you have the option of showing only boards that are pink. And the same applies even for the auto grading. So this will automatically filter out the boards this way, right? And so if I go to my book and look at the grading report, the same way I can also filter the boards along the same lines. So let's say if I look at the grading report, if I say show boards that are all pink, then there you see Sarah's board. So it just makes, searching for, so some of the teachers have literally 50, 60 students in their class, and these kind of filtering options makes it much easier for them as well. Okay, so that's our grading report. Let's go into grids. Now, one thing about grids is that if I click on that, there's quite a few options here. So as to make it easier for myself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this favoriting tool here. So if I click on tools, and if I click on this heart icon here, so this is available for all the options, many options. If you click on the heart icon, it becomes a favorite and it puts it up here for you. So it becomes easier to access, right? So we have now within the grids, there's of course a ton of options here. I'll show you a few things that work well in addition to just adding a grid there, okay? And so here's what you can do. So I've added a small grid here, but in addition to this, I can use a grid painter to do some interesting things. I can use it for, making some charts and things like that. And so this makes, drawing certain things much easier for students. So as well as for teachers when they're creating content, you can also use it for creating some interesting, good looking charts, right? So things like that, some graphs like this, right? So you can do that here. So that's one thing you can do. There's, in terms of grids, there's a bunch of, so that's a grid painter option that I just demonstrated. There's also a grid box here that lets you restrict the area where the grid is shown. So for example, if I want just the college line text to show only in that area and not the whole page, then I can use a grid box, right? And then I can use my text tool and things like that here to type in my text as well. So you can create areas where students can give their answers in just a focused part of the screen. Okay, so let's see. We have a grid painter, grid box. There's a dot painter as well. So like in the previous example where I had drawn the chart here, if I use a dot painter, then it makes it a little bit easier to mark certain things on the XY coordinate plane, for example, right? And so that it's otherwise when you're using just the pen tool, it becomes a little tricky. And so some of the teachers wanted this feature as well. And then of course you have the option to clear the grid, and that will of course leave any other content that you added on the screen, and you can always get rid of it this way by erasing it. Alternately, you can also go up here and clear the page, and that gets rid of all the content on the page as well. Okay. Again, let me pause. Any other questions?
No, Sid, not at this point.
Cool. So let's see. So we've talked about grids. There's a few other tools here, which I think we cover in the basic webinar. So let's see. There's a new sort of a widget we've added here called math cards recently. So this allows you to add certain denominations of numbers and then merge them together. For example, if I want to add this, and I'd like to explain to the students how what let's say 55, how does it work, right? So I can join these numbers and create 55, or I can even join these two and then create 655. I can select this and break it up further again as well. So there's a sort of an exercise that can be done by using this tool.
Sorry, Sid, there are two follow-up questions. One is about versioning for the student boards. Do we have a version history for student boards?
A version history, the best way you can get history for a student board is really to look at the timeline. And by scrolling over the timeline back and forth, you get to see what changes the students had made. There really isn't a way to specifically say there's a snapshot and then save this as a version and so on. One way I've seen certain teachers do versioning is that you can, there's the option of copy page. So let's say you can have the students create a one version of the work page that they worked on, and then create copy page to create another copy page, and so on. Another way to do it is to save a copy itself, which basically gives you an option to download a PDF copy of the board, or the single page, or the whole board also. So that's another way to do versioning, if you sort of call that versioning in some sense.
There is a second question related to chat. If we have a voice feature in the chat or any other add-ons for the chat.
So in the chat, so let me definitely talk about one really amazing thing about the chat is it can live translate into different languages. So let's say that, so I'm on the instructor board. Let me see what Joe is on this board. Okay. And so I've already enabled chat in here. So let's see now. This is for the whole class. So Joe should be able to see more. So type in here. And if Joe looks at his chat, right? So Joe can see that. Now, here's what, let's say Joe is more comfortable with German, right? Let's say, so Joe can go to his board, click on the actions menu here and select a chat language. Okay. Now this is, of course, just default by default. And let's say that Joe picks Deutsch, right? So what happens after that is, so let's say the teacher sends that message. As you can see, it has live translated the teacher's message into the language that the student had chosen, right? So if somebody is not comfortable with just English specifically, or any other language that you'd like to, that you're working or doing instructions in, then they can use this as a way to live translate and learn a lot from that. It works both ways as well. So now if the teacher selects a different language, the teacher also has the option of selecting a chat language. And so the same way the students present back a message will be available to the teacher in the selected language. Now, in terms of audio video discussion with individual students, what you can do is you can start. Now, some of these features that I'm demonstrating may not be included with our basic plan. So just be aware that you might see them as grayed out. But for the higher plans, these are definitely available, and it's helpful if you'd like to go for the higher plan. So if you start an inline audio video call, right? So this automatically opens up a little video panel here, which is overlaid onto the board itself, right? So this is why we call it as an inline one. And then I can select a specific group to chat with, or I can select the whole classroom to chat with, right? So you can do that video call with specific groups if you'd like to as well. Another option for audio video is, let's see, to end this, of course, there's no control right here, but you go back into the actions and you say end audio video call. Okay, so that takes away that panel and takes it away for the students as well. Now, if I start a regular audio video call, what this does is, this is a little bit tricky sometimes because you may not notice there's a conference tab that gets opened up here at the bottom. So if you click on that, it opens up a larger window with a regular sort of a conferencing mechanism where again the teacher can choose to open up the conference with a specific group, or just the whole classroom if they like, right? And then the students also see the same thing where they have a conference tab and the whiteboard. So you can switch back and forth between these two using these tabs. Okay. End this video call. Otherwise, it might mess up my Zoom call, which I don't want for sure. All right. Any other questions, Howard?
No, thank you so much, Sid.
Awesome. Okay. Let's see. So we did the groups, the toolbox. Okay. So we did math cards. We quickly talked about time machine as well. Okay. That's great. All right. Let's look at a few options that are available on top here. Of course, I I haven't really mentioned about naming the board here. So this is the board name. So of course, very basic things. But right next to the board name, there's a little icon here which hides quite a bit of functionality. So it's definitely worth talking about. So one thing I did talk about earlier was the copy page functionality, where you just create a duplicate of a page. But in addition to this, you have now download PDF. So you can the teacher can download just the whole board as a PDF, a specific page, even the whole class, a single page of the whole class. So just the fifth page of all the students, for example, or the whole class in one PDF. That means all the pages of all the students all put together in one PDF, or the whole class and each separated out by different students. So one PDF for each student, but all their boards together. Now, when you select this option, sometimes the browser, now since you're downloading multiple PDFs, some browsers, they ask you for confirmation that do you want this website to download multiple objects, right, or multiple files. So you may have to enable it the very first time, and then subsequently it will work every time after that. Here's another option. Now there's a download student report. So if I click on that, it downloads a comma separated values file, a CSV file. Okay, and it's of course titled by your board name. So whatever name you give your board. Let me see if I can open that here. So here it is. There's my board name. And then I can open it up with Microsoft Excel, or if you have a Mac, you can also open it up with your Numbers app. So what this contains is it shows you the different students that have joined the board, their page numbers. It shows you the number of objects that they've added. So, how much they've interacted with the board, whether there's any award stickers that were added to it, a lot of analytics as to what has happened in the board. It also gives you certain things called the engagement score, which shows you how much the student has been interacting with that board. This engagement score is also visible to the teacher on the whiteboard directly. So if I go into the grid view and I look at the whole score, so there's a little bit of a percentage indicator here, which shows, should I click that? Which shows you the engagement level of the students. So Joe was engaging a little bit earlier. Dhaval was engaging a little bit recently. Sarah and Roger haven't really been using it much at all. And to get even more insights for this, let me go back to the teacher board, and there's the option of looking at the engagement report right here. So this gives you an even nicer way to really look at this engagement. So the download student report gives you a lot of other metrics in addition to engagement, but just viewing the engagement report shows you real time how the students have been interacting, at what times they've been interacting with their boards. And even at an individual student level, you can see how each student has been progressing, right? So that's a really valuable feature to have, and that gives you an idea of also who has been working on their boards, who probably stacked off, or they may be running into some problems and don't know how to proceed, so you can attend to them. Now, yeah.
Sorry, Sid. So there is one more question about the group dialogue recording, which we can address a little later. Since you are on an engagement report, let's address the question about that first.
Okay.
The question is that when you were in the grid view and you saw the 3 different numbers, can you explain what those 3 numbers mean?
Yes. So let me just point out one quick thing on this panel before I close it. So there's a switch for enable auto engagement stickers. And what that does is it drops in based upon the student's engagement level. It adds these kind of stickers automatically. So it provides sort of a visual engagement and makes it more fun for students as well. All right. So it's the Whiteboard.chat can do that automatically for you. This is disabled by default, but you can always enable it. All right, so let's look at the grid view and go back here. So these percentages are calculated based upon a time period. So this is, I think, within the last 5 minutes, I think within the last 10 minutes, and then overall as well throughout the timeline. So I'll have to recall the exact time periods that are used, but it's along those lines. So I think we may have even documented that here in the help section. So if you go into the teacher's guide and click on this, then and just look for the engagement section, and you might be able to find more specifics about it.
There was a question which was asked 2 times. So I think we need to, maybe we can even ask the teacher to unmute and let us know. But I'm going to read out the question. I teach French online. How do my students do a group dialogue recording of a French spoken assignment?
I see. So one option is that, so let's say you create a group board, and let me see this. So we've already got the groups here. Let's say I join auto group 1, okay, or auto group 2. Joe is already part of auto group 2, so Joe can be part of auto group 2. Okay. Too many boards. Okay, so here we go. Now you can go into this section where I think I need to enable certain features for this particular option. So it's the tools.
Are you looking for the audio recording?
Yeah, it's in the upload section.
It's under upload, upload audio video. Yes.
Correct. So it's the students can now go into upload audio video, and now they can upload just their webcam audio video file, or even record their, if they want to, let's say, record it on their phone and then basically save it as a file and then upload it. That's possible too. But let's say that they can enable the webcam. This is probably not allowing this. That's because I've joined it as incognito. Let's see what other option I can use to demonstrate this.
Maybe you can join through Safari or other browser and then try that.
So I'm joining using a different browser. Let's see, as a student. Okay, so this student's name is Prach, and she has automatically been added to group 2. I had probably used this browser as the student earlier, so that's why it automatically picked up that name, right? So Prachi can go into the upload section, click on upload photo audio and the webcam, and start recording. So now what you can do is, now each student can do the start recording, record their voice speech. If they want only voice, that's fine. It doesn't have to include video, right? And then they can, now if the students are now thinking about a hybrid classroom, or even completely remote, right, is if the students are actually in person, they can record their French voice and French speech and record it and save it onto the board directly, or you can have them do it individually and then
Sid, I'm gonna interrupt you, because now since you are recording it using the inbuilt or audio video recording, yes.
Okay.
Can you now your audio is back.
Sorry. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, so I was trying to explain that you can have the students record their individual videos and then upload it onto the group board. If you're in a hybrid mode, of course, the students can all do it together on using the same webcam. Or if you're completely remote, then they will have individual videos of theirs. They can all share their own videos in the group board. So not only can you collaborate and add those videos on the group board, but of course you can put in the individual boards as well. Right. So hope that sort of helps you in what you want to accomplish.
Yeah, and if it is not, then please reach out. Maybe we can have a separate session with you and address this particular feature request and understand your requirement.
Thanks, sir. Exactly. So just write to us at feedback at whiteboard.chat at any time, we can come up with some creative solutions. And if there's no way to do it currently in Whiteboard, it's an opportunity for us to add something new and make it available for all the teachers everywhere, right? So that's really helpful. Okay. All right, so we just have about 5 minutes more to go. Let me see if there's some features that, so we were on this part. Let's quickly complete this part. There's an option for export as well. Now, the most commonly used option is to save a local copy. So let's say you put in a lot of effort into your board and you don't want anything else to happen to that board, or you'd like to use it next semester, then you can save a local copy. What this does is it creates a local file for you on your laptop, and you can at any time come to whiteboard.chat and use this import option to get that board back, right? So it's a good convenient way to have a backup in case you need that. There's also the option of exporting to the different assets that we have. So like I said, that if you're in Europe, EU.whiteboard is closer to you, and so on, right? So some of our teachers who may be doing lectures at different instances or different geographies, they can create boards in one area and export them for a better experience and so on. Or sometimes it just so happens that some teacher by mistake creates it in Asia, and they normally should be using the US version. Or on their travel, they were created it in Asia and they want to move it, then you can use this option, these export options. You can also, of course, I think we talked about save a copy and so on. Now, one really interesting thing that we have not had a chance to talk about is the community. So we have a teacher community where you can share the whiteboards that you've prepared. So if you click on share with community, it opens up a Google form for you that lets you add some information about what your board is all about. And it tells you, gives you a chance to describe which grades and subjects or which topics the board is directed towards. And that helps us then evaluate your board for sharing into our community. We definitely don't publish all the boards that we get, because some of them just don't have that higher quality that we'd like to maintain. And then when your submission gets approved, there's a section called Manage Boards here. If you click on that, it takes you to a page where you can organize your boards. But within this page, you have this section called Community Boards up here. So if you click on that, you get to see various boards that other teachers may have shared, right? So for example, for grade 4, this teacher, Elizabeth, has shared this and so on. So you can always click on this button to create to make a copy for yourself and reuse these boards. Now, these are all shared by teachers for free right now. And so you're welcome to use these. This does not alter the original copy that the teacher has shared. It just basically makes a new copy for you. Okay. Just to quickly, since we're talking about manage boards, this section is a way for you to get organized, to create folders, move your boards, and also look at, for example, if I click on this board here, I can see which students had joined this particular board of mine, and I can directly join their boards. Look at, so let's say if you're using whiteboard.chat for asynchronous learning or teaching, then you can prepare the board, share it with your students, and they can work on it at any time during the evenings, weekends, and then the teacher can always come and look at what progress they've made, right? So that's another way you can do this through manage boards. The manage board section is the same that is available for you also when you go to whiteboard.chat and you click on start drawing and then manage board. So this is the same, it will take you to the same page. Okay. I think one last thing that I'd like to cover, at least before we stop the recording, is that there was a question during registration about how to lock objects and lock pages. So now if you want to locking a whole page means none of the students can modify that page anymore. So if you click on the participants panel, there's 2 options available to lock things. So if you lock the class, then that basically locks all the boards within that particular classroom. So So that way the students can now only view the boards, they can turn pages and so on, but they're not able to make any changes, right? So if the student tries to draw anything there, he or she will not be able to change it. And it clearly says board locked by teacher also. And you can disable it by clicking disable. If you click on lock page, then it locks only that specific page that you're currently viewing. So it would be page number 1 since I'm on page number 1 here. Okay. You can also use the locking feature in association with the timer. So this is a little option to add some class timer out here. And you can say auto lock the relevant boards upon timer expiry. So you can specify how much time you want. Let's say I want to give 5 minutes to an assignment, and I can set the timer. So this will automatically give them 5 minutes to work on their assignment and then lock the boards after that. Right. And of course, if you'd like to give them over the weekend to do it, you can also specify expires at a specific time and date also. So that's another feature that you can definitely use. So I think we're on the top of the hour. I'm going to stop the recording. That does not mean that, of course, we need to stop our discussion.